Welcome to this February 2082 edition of Interplanetary Space Talk.
Good evening. This is John Fiolanis, here to welcome you to tonight's episode of Interplanetary Space Talk. Tonight we have a fortunate opportunity to talk with a few very special guests. First we have Scarthor, the infamous skink human of Pluto, and his faithful robot Wibbits. Later tonight we will also have an opportunity to chat with Zigmar, the beast man of Sharon, and Blankface, the great of Hydra. Now please prepare to meet Scarthor and Wibbits. Good evening, Scarthor, Wibbits. We're very pleased to have the opportunity to chat with you both.
Likewise. I would like to make this short, considering my android Wibbits and I have traveled far to be here tonight. I am very tired, and Wibbits is depressed, as usual.
That will do just fine. We understand that you both are amongst the few inhabitants of the planet Pluto.
Correct. I myself, being quite wealthy space traveler, have been one of the few who could afford life support systems necessary to survive amongst the extremely cold conditions of the planet.
I understand. May you please indulge for our audience's sake what the conditions are like?
Well, at this time I do not know what the exact temperature is, but I will consult with my robot, who is currently powered down. Well, let's see what we'll do here. Awaken.
Hello, Master. What is it you have awoken me for?
The gentleman here requires some statistics. You may ask him.
We are interested in finding out what life on Pluto is like for you in Scarthor, and we would like some statistics in these regards.
I see. Well, it is very different for me than it is for Skyfloor. He has me execute all functions outside of the station where we live. It is very cold for my circuits, sometimes as cold as negative 380 degrees Fahrenheit. Very depressing if I do say so myself. Also, the ground is very cold, being composed of something like that of a large comet, mostly ice and rock. Pluto is what you would call a dwarf planet, and is the 10th largest body known to the orbit of the Sun. Pluto also has a very large moon like itself called Charon, which is incredibly large in comparison to Pluto.
Very interesting, Wibbits. Thank you for your input.
Whatever may please you.
So, Scarthor, what is it that made you decide to take up residence on Pluto?
Oh, quite simple. I am studying the atmosphere, which seems to freeze to a solid methane frost for part of the year and then sublimates back into a gaseous form at other times.
Isn't the year on Pluto very long?
Yes, and that is why the contract with the Interplanetary Union is considerably generously funded. I was one of the few scientists with the original funding necessary to embark upon this mission.
How long is a year exactly?
That would be a good question for Wibbits.
Wibbits?
The sidereal period, or as humans say, the year of Pluto, is approximately 248 Earth years in length.
How will you complete your work, Scarthor, with such a long year?
Well, obviously I will not finish this work myself, yet it will be handed down to my son Zigmar, and likewise to the next of kin when he dies. It is all to be done in the name of science.
Ah, I see. And we understand that Zigmar is in the studio tonight and scheduled to speak next.
Yes, that is true. And as I said earlier, I have little time, and my android Wibbits has little patience at this time.
Well, thank you, Scarthor, Wibbits, for being here with us this evening.
Good evening. Goodbye.
Good evening, Zigmar.
Good evening.
We understand that you have taken up residence on the Pluto's moon, Charon?
Correct.
Maybe you could tell us what life is like there.
It is a bit dull, but as you may know, my father and my family alike have afforded much for the study of this little known planet and moon. Life for me is dull, but it is worthwhile for me to pursue mine and my father's aspirations alike, planetary study.
What does Pluto look like from Sharon?
I see it many times in the night. It is visible in many phases, and the color is always a dull silverish color.
Obviously, you cannot survive without life support, but do you have access to the surface and space gear?
Yes, I do, but I seldom use it. The samples I have already taken are sufficient as it is.
So how much longer do you plan on staying there?
I will stay indefinitely. When my father, as time passes, I will take his place.
Sounds like a dull existence.
It is, but it is in the name of the most long-aspired passions I have. Science, astronomy, and planetology.
Well, thank you for your time, Zigmar. We must move on now to fulfill tonight's last interview with Blankface the Great, who is currently stationed on Pluto's moon Hydra.
Good evening.
Next, we would like to welcome Blankface the Great of Hydra. Good evening, Blankface.
Good evening.
We understand you are the only inhabitant of Pluto's small moon Hydra, and that you are doing scientific study.
That is correct.
Wonderful. Maybe you could fill us in on some of the details in those regards.
I would like to do that. I find my work on Hydra quite interesting. Hydra has the greatest distance from Pluto in comparison to its other moons. It is approximately 64,800 kilometers from Pluto's very center, while Nix is merely 48,700 kilometers out, and Charon's distance is even closer at approximately 19,570 kilometers.
What about the sizes?
Hydra is approximately 61 kilometers in diameter, where Nix is a little smaller at approximately 46 kilometers in diameter.
We understand Charon is much larger.
Yes, Charon really pushes the limit on planet-satellite size comparison, while Charon being 1,205 kilometers and Pluto being 2,306 kilometers.
So we now see that much has been learned since the first pictures of Pluto and its satellites were taken by New Horizons mission that visited the planet in the year 2015.
Yes, much has been overcome. At that time it was unheard of and only speculated about that manned missions to these planets would be successful.
Well, thank you, Blankface. That is all the time we have for tonight. We must adjourn this session of Interplanetary Space Talk. Stay tuned for the following performance of the band The Plutonians, and good night to all of you.